everybody. Welcome back again to the 14th episode of The Lab. Sitting with me here is Alex Trotter and Brandon Wierig. We hope you guys enjoyed our conversation last week talking about the gas and SED principles, as well as getting into a little bit about, that exhaustion phase, and then a little bit more of the overreaching, but then also the overtraining aspects to that as well. And today what we're going to talk about, though, a little bit is we're going to talk about plyometrics as well as post-activation potentiation exercises. So just to kind of, elaborate a little bit more on what plyometrics are, Brandon here is going to give his definition of what a plyometric exercise is, or what it actually is happening in the muscle. And then we'll kind of go into, because the post-activation potentiation is more of like a more recent term and a more recent, I guess you could say, training style. So we'll kind of elaborate on what we think it is and how we've been using it. And then we'll kind of break it down a little bit about maybe what to use it for, maybe what not to use it for, and maybe our thoughts on what we like and dislike on it. So why don't you give us a little bit of a definition here, Brandon, on a plyometric?
So a plyometric is a type of training exercise that uses speed, force, at different movements to build muscle power. And it really just uses the stretch shortening cycle, which is basically you stretch a muscle. It's not going to like it, so it's going to rapidly shorten the muscle. And then you have the explosion. We use it a lot. There's another way to look into that is there's the eccentric phase. Then you have the atomization phase, which is kind of the transfer from the eccentric to the concentric. Muscles are like rubber bands, so the faster you can stretch a muscle, the quicker it's going to snap back. So that's kind of how our muscles work. So a lot of people will make the mistake of, if they're doing a box jump, they'll kind of go down slow. Then they might kind of have that freeze moment in between going back up. And you're not kind of getting the body's natural
stretch reflex.
Yeah, of that. So we work on just already having a big stretch, big deep breath, kind of on the balls of the feet, really, then just how fast can you snap down in your position, explode up. So that's kind of how we focus on just like a basic box jump, things like that. But I do plyometrics, some form of plyometrics, like every speed warm up, whether it just be like a broad jump or like skips for height or bounds or transverse jumps, single leg jumps. I mean, it's basically running is just like a reactive, just very fast plyometric. We use them for large muscle groups. We use them for like ankle stiffening and pogo hops. I think the most neglected plyometric is upper body. I mean, you definitely need to have an explosive upper body, especially if you play football. I mean, really any sport across. So we'll do like plyo push-ups, start on the bench, drop in, hit the ground, explode back up. Banded plyo push-ups, kind of like an overload, like just what you do for like a band-assisted jump. We did the same thing for upper body. And then just like tie a band around your knee and then have like a sled and just like reactive.
Yeah.
Try to do like maybe 10, 15 reps as fast and explosive as you can.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it is and how we utilize it.
I will say, when I first saw you implement that, I think it was track athletes maybe, I was mind blown. I was like, oh, that's genius. It's like, I just never seen anything like it.
It's a hell of a chest pump, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then let's kind of dive into how you take a plyometric exercise and then you combine that with like that post-activation potentiation. So like what that means is you're essentially ramping up your nervous system in order to generate more and more recruitment, right? So then when you do that, then you have what they would call a state of an increased excitement within the body, within that muscle group, whatever you just stimulated. And then you go to do that at a lesser intensity so that you can just basically produce way more force or power. So for example, let's say we have someone they've got a barbell on their back, they're pushing up into pins, they're maybe quarter squat depth, and they're driving up through the pins, there's no movement occurring, so it's like an isometric, and they're driving as hard as they can up into that. Let's say you hold it for
6 seconds.
6 seconds?
6 to 10.
6 to 10 seconds?
Yeah.
So you'd have them hold that there for 6 to 10
Depends
seconds.
on the level of the athlete.
Yeah, that's true too. So you have them hold into that press as hard as they can, and then immediately go over to a box and explode as hard as they can, trying to float up onto that box. So I've always thought it as someone's revving the engine, they're getting that, the RPMs up, they're wrapping it up, and then
hit launch control.
Exactly. Traction control on, go.
Yeah.
So I know, like you were just saying, how would you go about using that with like different sports? Or like when is it important to use? Because I mean, sometimes you're not going to do that all the time.
I like to use it maybe pre-season of a sport.
Yeah.
Just kind of get the fibers and everything kind of getting into it. It's like it's basically almost like tricking the brain in a sense. I think one way I explain it to you is to shorten it up. It's like you pick up a gallon of milk and then close your eyes for 10 seconds and you think you're picking up another gallon of milk, but someone dumps 3/4 of it out.
Yeah.
And you're like, your body's prepared to pick up a gallon of milk, but then all of a sudden it's only like a quarter, and then you just rip it up.
Goes flying.
So yeah, in a sense it's tricking the body, but I'll end up going maybe through preseason all the way to the end of that season.
Mm-hmm.
I like to spend most of the straight you look into like a full you only play say football. Like right now AJ is going through an eccentric phase.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll go through the eccentric phase, and then he'll kind of start combining an eccentric phase with a strength phase. Strength phase will start going into a power phase, and then he'll start heading into season, and then that's when y'all kind of start dialing that kind of stuff in.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yep.
And one of the things I've actually liked using it for is actually the Olympic lifts. So like my worst Olympic lift is probably the snatch, and so and it's always that transition point from first pull to second pull. So what I've actually started doing is I will set up my J hooks in a certain level of where I'm transitioning just above my knee, and I will pull for about 10 seconds with my hands out at the snatch grip, and I'll pull up into that, and it lights my back up, it gets everything to kind of start firing, and then when I actually start going into my percentages, I feel like I can actually, it's way more explosive. I don't feel like I'm losing my positioning as much, but I've been monitoring. I mean, you got to monitor how many reps you do so that when you actually do go to your working set, you're not just fatiguing out.
Yeah.
But being able to produce power and just activating that system.
It's not really just for a plyometric either. Use that example with the one you just did.
Yeah, I think it's a great tool to help you mentally as well. Chuck Vogelpohl was a big proponent of this. He wanted you to learn how to strain. So you need to know if you're having an out of body experience where you're at in that deadlift, for example, and what you need to start firing to correct it to get it to go. So we have one athlete right now she's just got a little mental block going on. So that I love this as an exercise for her. Pull it right into that sticking point that she's get into. You can watch her just get into the correct position that she needs to be in, and then her confidence you can watch it just rise. So then immediately right after she goes straight to a deadlift, rips off the ground, and then her eyes shoot out of her head, and she's like, "What the hell?" But yeah, I really like that. I like because you can feel it too, just like you were saying with your back. Mm-hmm. Okay, when I go to do this in game time or real life, then I need to feel that. So if I don't feel that on that motion, I know that I screwed something up. Mm-hmm. So same thing. I'm a big proponent of having almost a out of body experience to know what range you're in, what part of that movement that you're getting stuck at. Set it to your sticking point and just run it for 3 or 4 weeks. Try it. I can almost guarantee a PR.
Well, it's easy for us to figure out where your weaknesses are too, because if you got a kid that's doing the isometric deadlift, they're able to keep a strong upper back, but then you kind of start seeing their pelvis rotate. Yeah. Okay, well that's weak hips, weak low back. You can't brace your core part, but if their hips stay in a good position, then all of a sudden you start seeing the upper back roll. Well, okay, we can adjust that too. Start doing things with the upper back, stuff like that. So it's a really good tool for coaches to figure out where your weaknesses are and where you need to develop too.
Yeah. Exercise and assessment at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, that's why I would really love to have a force plate, because I just use my weight scale at home, and I'll put that underneath, and if I don't see that error on my weight scale, I know I'm not pushing hard enough, and it goes up to 350 pounds. I know I need to get another weight scale because I'm about to break it. Yeah. But I'll put that underneath my feet. So I mean, if you had force plates, you could actually get them even that's the importance of a visual of you can even use it to track speed too if you had a freaking Nintendo unit.
I think I just saw on Instagram that Eddie Hall did something like that. And he ended up, quote unquote, deadlifting, with the amount of force that he pulled was 1,700 pounds. It's good God. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
But it's just like, you should be able to produce more force than what, at your strong point, I guess, than what you can actually do. Because you always have a weak point. You're only as strong as that weak point. So you got to correct that, and it's constantly changing. I used to suck off the floor when I would deadlift.
Mine stays the same.
Yeah. It's just the same thing. But
makes sense.
Yeah. So we're playing with that one now. I use it, and I love it for more of a get through your mental block. Because like, if you can pull that thing for 6 seconds with everything you got, you can pull a deadlift for 6 seconds.
That sounds like hell, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I know. But no deadlift is taking 6 seconds.
No.
Unless you're hitching it and ramping it and making it real ugly.
Shaking like a...
Yeah. Yeah.
Not even going to say what that was. No, guys, but we'll probably try to put up a video of an example of one of those types of exercises like we're talking about. Like maybe with the squat pin and then using the box jumps. I'll have Brandon do that.
Yeah, so it's definitely something recently that's been kind of taken over for more of a power development style, but it can definitely be used for strength.
Yeah, we'll put up an example of a lower body one as well as an upper body one. Maybe we'll have Trotter do one with like a pin press benching and then doing like maybe a plyo push up.
Yeah.
Just for an example. But we hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. If you guys want us to elaborate this on either one of those topics, let us know and we'll go into it a little bit more detail. But be on the lookout for the video for both the upper and lower body examples. But next week, what we'll be doing, we'll be bringing in another interview. We're going to be bringing on, his name is Dr. David Farwick. He's a physical therapist down with Mobility Fit down in, I believe he's down in Centerville and down in the Cincinnati area. He's also a sports physical therapist, so he's going to come on. He's going to talk a little bit just about social media and just kind of some of the pitfalls that some influencers find themselves on in terms of, putting absolutes in the minds of young athletes. So, like, when you see, like, maybe, well, I won't name a specific influencer right now, but when you see, like, oh, you should never be doing planks, or you should never be doing squats to below 90 degrees, things like that. We'll kind of talk on that a little bit when we interview Dave. But we hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you guys next time.